This video is about American influence on post-war Germany. Subscribe for more. The year was 1945, the smoke of war still clinging to the air like a shroud over the ruins of Berlin. The city, once a beacon of culture and power, now lay in tatters, its streets littered with debris and memories of a fractured past. The echo of gunfire had barely faded when the first American troops marched in, their presence a harbinger of change. Among them was Captain James Mitchell, a seasoned officer with sharp blue eyes and a heart hardened by the horrors of war. Mitchell had seen the worst of humanity during his time in Europe, and as he stepped onto German soil, he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. His mission was clear: to help rebuild a nation shattered by its own ambition. But as he surveyed the chaos around him, a darker mystery began to unfold. Why had the Americans come? Was it merely to rebuild, or did their arrival signal the beginning of something far more complex? At the same time, in a dimly lit cafe in the heart of Berlin, a young German woman named Anna Vogel listened intently to the whispers of her fellow citizens. The war had stripped her of family and home, leaving her to navigate the shifting allegiances in a city filled with distrust. Anna had once been a student of literature, but now she found herself drawn into the world of espionage. She had information that could change the course of history, yet it was a double-edged sword. As the Americans set up their command posts, Anna became increasingly aware of the tensions simmering beneath the surface. Rumors circulated of a secret Soviet presence lurking in the shadows, eager to exploit any signs of weakness among the Americans. Anna found herself caught between two worlds, the remnants of her past loyalty to her country in the hope that a new alliance could lead to a better future. Mitchell's intelligence officer, Lieutenant Air Collins, was determined to understand the complex social fabric of post-war Berlin. With keen eyes and an ever-watchful demeanor, she gathered information from local sources, often engaging with the very citizens who had once been her enemies. Her mission was not solely to bring order to chaos, but to unravel the enigma of German sentiment. What did they really think of their conquerors? As Sarah delved deeper into the lives of Berliners, she encountered Anna. Their paths crossed serendipitously at a town hall meeting where tensions flared like the flickering flames from the still smoldering ruins. There, Anne stood up to speak, her voice trembling yet resolute. She demanded answers, questioning the Americans' intentions and the future of her homeland. Sarah, intrigued by the fire in the young woman's words, decided to reach out. "Your courage is admirable," Sarah remarked, her tone measured yet friendly. "But your anger could lead to more destruction. We're here to help." Anna shot her a sharp glance, suspicion etched on her features. "Or further entrench yourselves. It's easy to claim benevolence when you read the victor." Sarah felt the sting of Anna's words, but remained undeterred. "We be not like them," she countered, gesturing towards the remnants of the Nazi regime. As their conversation unfolded, a fragile bond began to form. Anna offered insights into the local mindset, how people were not just victims, they were survivors who had witnessed the depths of despair. Sarah, in turn, shared the American vision of democracy, the ideals that had motivated her to join the fray. But the possibilities of peace were overshadowed by the looming specter of the Soviet Union, which had its own designs on a divided Germany. Unbeknownst to Mitchell and Collins, whispers of espionage and betrayal wove through the air like a palpable tension. It wasn't long before the seeds of doubt and fear began to spread among the occupying forces. Back at the American command, Mitchell received intelligence reports indicating increased Soviet activity on the Eastern Front. Each night, he pored over maps and coded messages, his gut tightening with the realization that the Cold War was already beginning to take shape. His mission was not just to rebuild, but to defend against an ideological enemy that could turn friend into foe within the blink of an eye. One fateful night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the city, a clandestine meeting took place in the basement of an abandoned building. There, Anna sat across from a mysterious figure known only as the Raven. Rumored to be a former officer in the SS, he had knowledge of covert operations that could spell disaster for the Americans. "You must choose, Anna," he whispered, his voice slow and conspiratorial. "Align yourself with the Soviets, and you will gain power. The Americans won't hesitate to crush anyone in their path." Anna's heart raced as she weighed the dangerous proposition. She could feel the pull of loyalty to her homeland, yet the idea of aligning with a regime that had caused so much suffering left her cold. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "The Americans are naive to think they can rebuild without us. They must be reminded who truly holds the keys to power in this city. You can help them see that," the Raven replied, a sly smile creeping across his lips. Meanwhile, the tension continued to mount at American headquarters. Mitchell gathered his officers for a briefing, the atmosphere thick with uncertainty. We were facing resistance not just from the remnants of the Nazi regime, but from a new threat, he declared, his voice resonating with resolve. We must solidify our position here in Berlin before it is too late. As the meeting concluded, Sarah felt a sense of urgency. She turned to Mitchell, determined to act before the situation spiraled out of control. We need to understand the German perspective better. Perhaps we could work with Anna. She has her ear to the ground. Mitchell nodded, a plan beginning to take shape in his mind. Get her on our side. If we can win her trust, we might gain insights that could keep us one step ahead of the Soviets. In the days that followed, Sarah and Anna forged an uneasy alliance, the conversations becoming a dance of trust and skepticism. Each shared revelation brought them closer, yet the specter of betrayal hung in the air. They both understood that they were not just fighting for survival, but for the soul of a broken nation. As the city of Berlin began to awaken from the ashes of war, alliances would be tested, loyalties questioned, and the battle for the future of Germany would only intensify. The world watched with bated breath as the stage was set for a confrontation that would reverberate through history. But as whispers of treachery grew louder, Anna found herself standing at a crossroads. Would she choose the path of collaboration with the Americans, or succumb to the seductive darkness of power promised by the Raven? The night loomed heavy above Berlin, a city on the cusp of transformation, where the actions of a few would determine the fate of many. As tensions escalated and secrets unraveled, the first threads of a new conflict began to weave through the fabric of post-war Europe. And so, as the shadows deepened, the question remained, in a divided world, who would emerge victorious and who would be left to bear the burden of history? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to be uncovered. The tension in Berlin grew thicker, and shadows stretched across the cobblestones like fingers grasping at the remnants of a fractured city. Anna Vogel stood at her window, her gaze piercing through the debris of war towards the dim silhouette of the Reichstag. The spectre of the Raven loomed large in her mind, his words echoing like a haunting melody. Align with the Soviets, they said. Power awaited those who would seize it. But at what cost? Days turned into a blur of clandestine meetings and whispered conversations. Anna and Sarah Collins navigated the labyrinthine streets of Berlin, each discussion a tightrope walk over a chasm of uncertainty. Sarah was determined to gain the trust of Berliners, and Anna, with her pulse on the city's heartbeat, became an invaluable ally. Yet, gnawing unease tugged at Anna's core, reminding her that the truth she grasped carried the weight of betrayal. One chilly morning, as a light drizzle washed over the city, Anna and Sarah met at a small cafe tucked away from the prying eyes of American soldiers and German denizens alike. The air was dense with the smell of burnt coffee and stale bread, a fitting backdrop for the weight of the conversation. Anna, Sarah began, her voice low and resolute, we need to discuss what the Raven said. If there is a Soviet presence here, we have to know how deep it goes. It could jeopardize everything we were trying to achieve. Anna nodded, her heart racing. I understand, but how do we even begin to trust anyone in this city? Everyone has their motives. Trust is something we have to build, piece by piece, Sarah replied. But we can't let fear dictate our actions, we must act strategically. The two women exchanged ideas, laying the groundwork for a plan that would require utmost discretion. They decided to gather intelligence from other locals, seeking out anyone who had seen suspicious movements or had connections to the remnants of the Nazi regime. As they plotted, the sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over the cafe. Outside, a group of American soldiers marched by, their laughter a stark contrast to the somber atmosphere within. Sarah's gaze drifted to the window for a moment, lost in thought. Do you think they truly want to help? Anna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. They believe they do, Sarah replied, but the line between assistance and control is perilously thin. With a steely resolve, Anna leaned forward. If they push too hard, they'll drive us into the arms of the Soviets. The next few days unfolded like a game of chess, with each move calculated and laden with consequences. Anna found herself drawn deeper into a network of locals and former Nazi sympathizers who whispered of hidden treasures buried beneath the rubble of their past. They spoke of an underground that stretched far beyond the city, where resistance cells plotted against the Americans and Soviets alike. In her quest for information, Anna visited a dilapidated warehouse rumored to be a meeting place for former officers still loyal to the fallen regime. She felt the pulse of danger thrum in her veins as she approached the entrance, her heart pounding with each step. The air was thick with secrecy, and as she stepped inside, the shadows enveloped her. A group of men huddled in the corner, the hushed voices mingling with the dim light filtering through cracked windows. Anna's heart raced as she recognized some of their faces, men who had once worn the uniform of the Reich. They spoke in low tones about the shifting allegiances of power in Berlin. "Fools, those Americans," one man scoffed, slamming his hand against the table. "They think they can rebuild a nation that has been shattered by its own pride. They know nothing of the hearts they tread upon." Anna, sensing an opportunity, interjected. "And what do you propose?" "To throw in your lot with the Soviets." A murmur rippled through the group, and several men paused to look at her. "You think we should be puppets, dancing on their strings?" Then another man questioned, eyeing her warily. "The Raven offers power, but he also offers a return to a world we lost." "But what will that world cost you?" Anna pushed back, her voice steady. "Are you willing to sacrifice the chance for true change?" The Americans, however flawed, offer a chance for something different. Their conversation was interrupted as a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall man with piercing eyes, his presence commanding even in the dim light. The Raven. Anna's breath hitched. He surveyed the room, his gaze landing on her, a smile curling at the edges of his lips. "Ah, our young idealist," he remarked, his voice smooth as silk. "You've found your way into the lion's den, I see. But tell me, do you truly believe the Americans will save you, or just further ensnare you in their web?" Anna felt the weight of his words, a challenge and an enticement all at once. "I believe there is a chance for real change, but it is a precarious balance." The Raven stepped closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Work with us, and we can ensure that Germany rises anew on our terms, not theirs. You could have power, Anna. The kind of power that could reshape this city." Fighting the pull of his words, Anna shook her head. "I refuse to be anyone's pawn, especially not yours." The tension crackled in the air as she turned to leave, but the Raven called out after her. "But beware, Anna. The Americans may seem like allies, but in a city divided, everyone has a price. Remember, power is a double-edged sword." As Anna stepped back into the rain-soaked streets, her mind raced with conflicting thoughts. She had glimpsed the darkness that awaited her, but she also felt the flicker of hope that Sarah represented. If she could just bridge the gap between the two worlds, perhaps they could forge a path to true cooperation. Meanwhile, back at American command, Mitchell was grappling with the increasing tensions on the ground. Intelligence reports indicated that Soviet agents had infiltrated civilian life, sowing seeds of dissent among the very people they sought to aid. "Every day, it becomes more complicated," he confessed to Sarah as they stood over maps dotted with critical locations. "The Soviets don't just want Berlin, they want to sow chaos and fear. We need to act fast." "I've been speaking with Anna," Sarah replied, her expression serious. "I believe she may be a crucial link to understanding the pulse of this city." And Mitchell leaned back, pondering her words. "We need to trust her and get ahead of any potential uprisings. If we can unite Berliners under a common goal, it might prevent a Soviet takeover." As they strategized, a sudden explosion rocked the ground beneath them, sending debris raining down from the ceiling. Alarms blared, and panic erupted within the command post. Soldiers rushed to their posts, weapons drawn, ready to face whatever threat had just shaken their hard-won ground. "Mitchell," the soldier shouted as he burst into the room, breathless. "We need to secure the area." Mitchell felt a surge of adrenaline. "Sarah, find Anna and bring her here. We might need her insights." As the world outside descended into chaos, Anna was caught in a storm of uncertainty, the shadows of betrayal ever present as she stood at the intersection of power and loyalty. The pieces of the puzzle were shifting, and the reality of war made it clear alliances must be forged quickly, or all would be lost. The battle for Berlin was just beginning, and as the echoes of gunfire resounded through the streets, the stakes grew high. Anna could feel it, the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. With the fate of her city hanging in the balance and forces pulling her in every direction, she steeled herself for the choices that lay ahead. In a city divided by ideology and fear, what path would she take? As the echoes of war raged on, Anna knew that her decision could change the course of history forever. The chaos that erupted around Anna was palpable, the ground shaking beneath her feet as muffled gunfire echoed through the rain-soaked streets of Berlin. The once familiar landscape was now a battleground, and the lines between friend and foe blurred further with each passing moment. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her, each decision a potential pivot point for a fractured city teetering on the brink of collapse. As she rushed through the alleys, the decisive moments ahead flickered through her mind like dark shadows. She had seen the faces of betrayal and desperation, the remnants of a regime clinging to life amid the ruins. Her thoughts spiraled back to the Raven's words, his promise of power a dangerous temptation. But as she navigated the remnants of the city, her heart felt heavy with the burden of loyalty, not just to her country, but to the people trying to rebuild their lives amidst this turmoil. In the distance, the loud crack of gunfire broke through the rhythmic patter of rain, shattering the uneasy calm that had settled around her. Anna pressed onward, determined to reach Sarah and the American command. She had to warn them that the brewing storm of insurgency was not just an external threat, but also one born from within a fractured society desperate for stability yet torn by conflicting ideologies. Meanwhile, inside the command post, Mitchell barked orders to his men, the tension palpable in the air. "Hold the perimeter. We can let them breach our defenses," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. As soldiers scrambled to secure their positions, Sarah rushed into the room, her breath coming in quick bursts. "Mitchell, we need to act. Anna is on her way. She has information that could change everything." "The everything is changing too fast," Mitchell replied, scanning the room with a resolute stare. "We cannot afford to be caught off guard. They're using our presence here as a rallying cry. We need to show the Berliners we are not the enemy." As the alarm blared relentlessly, Sarah interrupted, "We need to integrate them into the governance of the city. If we can convince them we are here to help, they may stand down." "Helping them isn't enough," Mitchell replied sharply, the lines of worry etched across his face deepening. "We need to take decisive action. If we don't, the Soviets will exploit this chaos, and we'll lose our foothold in Europe." Just then, Anna burst through the door, soaked from the rain but with a fire in her eyes. "They're reorganizing," she panted, trying to catch her breath. "The group of former Nazi sympathizers has banded together, and they're rallying others to fight against the Americans. They believe the Soviets will offer them a better chance at power." "Damn it," Mitchell muttered, running a hand through his hair. "We can't allow that to happen. We need to act swiftly. Sarah, gather a team. We're going out to confront them before they can rally any more support." "But are you sure that is wise?" Anna interjected, her voice taut with concern. "They're desperate and volatile. Any sign of aggression could provoke them further." Mitchell met her gaze, a fierce determination in his blue eyes. "We're not going to wait until they come for us. We'll show them we're here to stay. And we'll remind them that their past will not dictate their future." As they prepared to leave, Sarah gathered her notes and maps, turning to Anna with an earnest expression. "If we were going to confront them, we need your insights. You know their language, their motives. You can help us reach out to those still caught in the web of the past." Anna hesitated, the weight of the moment sinking in. She had already found herself at crossroads. Now the path ahead felt even murkier. "I'll help, but we must approach them with caution. They're not just fighting for the past. They fear losing everything they've ever known." Outside, the rain had turned the streets into rivers, washing away the remnants of the previous day's chaos. With each step, Anna felt the pulse of the city beneath her feet, a rhythm of life punctuated by the residue of war. As they made their way through the labyrinth of Berlin, the group moved with purpose, determination etched across their faces. A few blocks away, the sound of shouts and gunfire intermixed with the murmur of discontent that permeated the streets. When they arrived at the dilapidated warehouse rumored to host the dissidents, tension hung thick in the air. The group turned to Anna, their faces reflecting trepidation and readiness. "Stay behind us," Mitchell instructed, his voice steady as he led the way through the worn wooden doors. Inside, the warehouse was dimly lit, shadows dancing eerily on the walls as they stepped cautiously into the main chamber. A circle of men stood huddled beneath flickering light bulbs, their faces hardened by a decade of conflict. The atmosphere crackled with energy as they turned their attention toward the newcomers. One of the men growled, his arms crossed defiantly over his chest. "We're here to talk," Mitchell replied, voice firm yet respectful. "We're not your enemy, and we want to understand your concerns." The room erupted in murmurs, distrust evident in the eyes of those before them. Anna stepped forward, her heart racing. "You don't have to align with the Soviets. There is an opportunity to rebuild, to create something new from the ashes. We can help each other." One man stepped forward, his face shadowed by the brim of his hat. "You're just another occupying force, just like the last." Anna felt a surge of desperation. "Because I want to believe in a future where we can coexist, where we are not defined by our past. There are others like you who don't want war, they just want the chance to rebuild." As the tension built, a voice from the back broke through, a familiar figure stepping from the shadows. "The Raven. Ah, our young idealist trying to play savior," he sneered. But can you truly trust these Americans? They've come with promises that will only bind you in chains. Stand with us. We can offer you power, a chance for true autonomy. The air grew heavy with unease, Anna wrestling with her loyalties as she faced him. You talk of power as if it's the answer. But power without purpose leads to destruction. We have to consider the future, not just ourselves. Then enough, Mitchell shouted, his voice ringing with authority. We're not here to debate ideals, we're here to forge a path forward. But it requires trust, and it requires action. So, will you fight alongside us for the sake of your future, or will you cling to the shackles of a dying past? The room fell silent, eyes dotting among one another, uncertainty swirling like a storm. Anna felt the weight of their decision pressing down harder than ever before. Would they choose the path of collaboration, or would they succumb to the seductive whispers of the raven? Just then, a loud crash echoed from the entrance, startling everyone. Soldiers, both American and German, burst into the warehouse, weapons drawn, eyes wild with fear and confusion. To get down, a soldier shouted, and chaos erupted once more. In the midst of the turmoil, Anna's heart raced as she scanned the room, the lines of loyalty and betrayal suddenly drawn in stark relief. In this moment of disarray, she grasped the truth: power struggles would not be resolved through words alone. The battle for Berlin was not just a confrontation of ideologies, but a fight for the soul of a city. As bullets ricocheted off the walls and men scrambled for cover, Anna made a choice that would ripple through the very fabric of history. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she lunged toward Sarah, grabbing her arm. We must unite them. Only together can we forge a future. Together, they rushed toward the fray, determination etched in their faces as they faced the chaos head-on. The shadows of their past loomed large, but in that moment, they were united by a singular purpose to fight not only for survival, but for the possibility of a shared future. And above the cacophony of gunfire and shouts, one question reverberated through Anna's mind: would they emerge from the ashes of war to build a new world, or would the weight of history bind them to the cycle of violence and despair? The answer lay in the heart of Berlin, where the storm was just beginning to gather its strength amidst the chaos. Anna seized onto the moment, adrenaline propelling her forward as she grasped Sarah's arm. We can't let this turn into a full-scale war, she urged, her voice rising above the clamor. If we unite the people here now, we can prevent the Soviets from swooping in and exploiting this conflict. Sarah nodded, her eyes reflecting urgency. You were right. We need to protect what little peace we have left. If we can rally these men to see reason, we might stand a chance of stabilizing the city. As soldiers from both sides took cover, exchanging fire and emotion toward the men huddled in the shadows, their confusion palpable. They have to understand that fighting among ourselves will only hand Berlin to the Soviets on a silver platter. Mitchell, who had taken cover behind a wall, raised his voice. Listen up. We not your enemy. All of us Germans and Americans, we share this city. If we fight here, we lose everything. His words pierced through the noise, and some men turned, eyes narrowing as they processed the implications. Uncertainty hung in the air like the smoke of gunfire. Anna stepped forward, pushing through the throng of bodies to stand beside Mitchell. You want to fight for a Germany that rises from the ashes, right? Then join us. We're not here to occupy, we want to rebuild alongside you, but we need to put aside our differences. This infighting only brings ruin. A muscular man with a scar running down his cheek stepped out from the ranks of former sympathizers, his stance tough but uncertain. You think just words will save us? We've been betrayed before. And no one is asking you to trust blindly, Anna replied, her voice steady. But look around. We're on the brink of another war, and that's not just against the Americans. The Soviets are waiting, eager to control the power vacuum we leave behind. Our past can either bind us or unite us against a common threat. From the back of the room, the raven laughed mockingly, joined hands with the Americans, and you'll find yourselves shackled once more. They preach freedom, but what they offer is control. You think they were any different from those who oppressed you before? But with the sound of bullets still ricocheting off the warehouse walls, Anna felt the tension in her chest tighten. She had to act quickly. She shouted back at the raven, the urgency propelling her words. Power is empty if it is built on ruins of our own making. You want to create a future for Germany, then let us work together to forge it. As fire continued to erupt outside, the members among the group shifted. Anna could sense the tide turning. The men, worn from years of war and bloodshed, were beginning to question the Raven's rhetoric. Mitchell pressed on, seizing the moment. You've fought together for a common cause once haven to you. Doesn't that bond mean something? We can turn the city around, but only if we reunited. Let us ensure Berlin has a future that is free from the grip of outside powers. In that moment, a wave of recognition seemed to ripple through the crowd, and the atmosphere shifted from one of hostility to contemplation. Anna felt a crack of possibility break through the weight of despair that had haunted the city for too long. The man with the scar, sensing the change, took a step forward. "You're right. We've lost everything already. The question is, what do we have to gain from joining hands with you Americans? We can rebuild together," Sarah interjected, her voice rising with fervor. "Rebuilding isn't easy, it is fraught with risk. But if we face it together, we can create a new Germany, a country that draws strength from its past and a future built on cooperation, not oppression." The tension thickened, and for a moment all eyes were on the scarred man, who seemed to hold the fate of the room in his hands. The Ravenous voice, once commanding, faltered as dissent brewed against him. "You are only inviting a greater tragedy," he muttered darkly, but his influence was waning, overshadowed by the growing resolve of the men surrounding him. The scarred man shouted, cutting through the noise. "We can't go on like this. Berlin has suffered too much. I say we give them a chance." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Anna felt hope surge within her. "Together," she declared, her voice strong. "Together, we can stand against not just the threats that loom outside these walls, but forge a new identity that embraces our shared humanity." As chaos continued to rumble outside, Anna stepped closer to the scarred man. "We need a leader, someone the people will rally behind. You've fought, you've sacrificed. Will you stand with us?" With a fierce resolve, he nodded. "Yes, I will lead." The Ravenous face contorted with rage. "You are making a brave mistake. You will regret this. Or perhaps it is you who will," the scarred man responded, turning his back on the Raven. "This is a new beginning, and it is time to embrace it. Get out," he shouted at the Raven, and the room erupted with cheers. Anna felt a rush of relief, a weight of uncertainty lifting as men began to lower their weapons. Mitchell turned to his team, urgency coursing through him. "Let us move while we can regain control of the city." As they prepared to leave, the scarred man called out, "And we all make sure Berlin understands this moment. No more fighting amongst ourselves. We face the real enemy together." Outside, the storm had abated, and the sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm light on the chaotic streets still lined with debris. Anna, Sarah, and Mitchell pushed forward, leading the way, a diverse group of former enemies bound together by a new purpose. As they stepped out into the streets, Anna felt a renewed determination swell within her. The battle for Berlin was far from over, but they had forged an alliance that promised hope not just for themselves but for all of Germany. Days turned into weeks, and as they began the arduous task of rebuilding, Anna found herself at the forefront, working alongside both Americans and Germans, their shared labor a testament to what could be accomplished when old rivalries were set aside. New governance emerged from the ashes, one that embraced democracy and the voices of its citizens. Slowly but surely, Berlin began to heal, the scars of war giving way to the tapestry of a vibrant, resilient city. The spectre of the Raven faded, his power diminished by the very unity he had sought to destroy. And in the heart of the city, a new narrative was written, one where the past was acknowledged, but not allowed to dictate the future. As Anna stood atop the rubble of what had once been the Reichstag, she could see the transformation taking shape. It was not just a city being rebuilt, but a nation learning from its history, striving to rise from the ashes stronger together. In the embrace of camaraderie and hope, the shadows of war began to recede, leaving behind a legacy not of division, but of shared strength and resilience. The battle for Berlin had indeed forged a new identity, one that would echo through the annals of history, reminding future generations that even in the darkest moments, unity could light the path to a brighter tomorrow.